The Golden Globes, one of the biggest of the award shows in Hollywood, and winners there often get a whole lot of Oscar buzz. But that is all changed. Studios, A-list celebs, they're all abandoning the Golden Globes, and now they have lost their American broadcaster as well. Eli is with us this morning to tell us all about this. I don't know. I thought it was a bit of a bombshell. Eli, when that move yesterday that NBC will not be airing the Golden Globes next year, what's behind the cancellation?
Huge. I mean, look, this is earth-shaking in La La Land. What's behind the cancellation? A lot of this stemmed, Heather, about like the Golden Globes has always been an interesting contradiction in Hollywood, where it's this glitzy show. It used to get great ratings. It really kind of sets the table for the Oscars, and yet was run by a very small group of supposed international journalists. And there's a lot of talk about them being influenced by various studios and accepting all of these, junkets and whatnot. And a lot of what really changed things was in February, the LA Times had an expose, and it talked about, real ethical lapses inside the organization that runs the Globes, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, talking about these lavish junkets, talking about double dealing. Let me play you something from David Poland. He is the editor from Movie City News. He's been watching the Globes and kind of saw this coming, but take a look at how he describes them.
They're a corrupt organization. The NBC deal gave them enormous amount of power and prestige, keeping the group small, under 100 members, gave them an opportunity to take advantage of every financial opportunity. And they basically kind of hit the wall when it came to the race thing became kind of like their downfall.
Now, that race thing, I think another shocking surprise in that expose from the LA Times was that in this organization where only about 90 members of international journalists vote to decide who wins the best in TV and film, there wasn't a single black member. And you look at how Hollywood has changed. You look at many of the films like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, like One Night in Miami, that are even being celebrated during award season. The fact that there wasn't a single black member in this international organizations really seemed to be a problem. So what happened? The Globe said they could do better. They would do better. They passed a series of reforms, but the reforms themselves, talking about increasing the membership by about 50%, looking for black members, that had a timeline of 18 months. And that would mean, Heather, it would be 2 more Golden Globes before they finally kind of fix the problem. And I think the message from the town was that's not fast or good enough.
I mean, there have been calls for boycotts, Eli. There seems to be widespread support from within the industry and from some very big names within the industry.
So many. I mean, you look at so many actors who have been on those junkets, who've had to answer the awkward questions from members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association who've accepted the awards, like Mark Ruffalo, who said they need to do better. This is the time to change. Scarlett Johansson talked out and pointed out some of the, sexist and awkward and demeaning questions she's received from the journalists that make up this organization. Tom Cruise himself sent 3 of his Golden Globes. He, I guess, or his assistant, put them in a box from 4th of July, from Jerry Maguire and Magnolia, and sent them to the offices of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Imagine that picture of just a box, a crate with a bunch of trophies in a sign of protest. But I think really what changed, it wasn't just the actors. Some of the biggest studios that have been catering to and cajoling this organization started talking about a boycott. And we're talking Netflix, we're talking Amazon, we're talking the Time's Up organization, we're talking Warner Brothers. And so this is really what I think that was what's really started to change things. Now, I want to introduce you to Tanya Williams. She's a Canadian actor. She's the founder of Real World Film Festival, and she's been in Hollywood since 1987. And what she's pointing out is, many of those organizations that were saying you need to do better, well, those are organizations where they're now seeing diversity in their boardrooms and in the executive suite. And that's also something we don't see in the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So they kind of had a blind spot for this issue. Let's take a listen to what Williams has to say.
The fact that there's not membership, I think, is why the Hollywood Foreign Press have not understood how important what is going on is going on. I think if they had Black members in there, I think they would have said, you guys need to really take note. This is really serious. You have got to come forward with some sort of huge change.
So there you go. And so yesterday afternoon, around 3 o'clock Eastern Standard, that bombshell, NBC announcing they will not air the 2022 Golden Globes, and basically saying if they do the work, they will be hopefully in a position to air the show January 2023. So they seem to say, you know, the show is worth saving. You cannot do this in the time allowed for the next upcoming show. So we're going to give you that space to make more meaningful changes.
But will it? I mean, let's look to the broader impact and the future. Will there be a Golden Globes in 2022?
It's hard to say. So it's interesting, you know, we reached out to Dick Clark Productions, which is behind it. They have not released an official statement. At the same time, the Golden Globes posted on their website an accelerated timeline, and the language of that was regardless of the next air date of the Golden Globes. So they seem to be saying, you know, hey, we might have a show. If we don't have a show, here's the changes we're going to start working on very quickly. And now it's not like an 18-month timeline. It's, we're going to do this in May and we're going to do this the following month. So things are changing very quickly. I think it's incredibly unlikely at this point that any other broadcaster would pick up the show. I think there's a good chance that there will not be a Golden Globes in 2022. And this is, as Tanya Williams was telling me, this is an opportunity. This show needs to adapt or die. Here she is talking about what needs to change.
This is a time for us to reinvent our thoughts about award shows and how they work, or what's working and what's not working. And this is something that's not working. That audience that award shows play to, that audience has changed. And you have to give them content that they're going to be interested in seeing. And
the other interesting factor, that audience is also a lot smaller. I'm not sure NBC would have pushed them to make these changes and said, we're going to take a year off, if not for the fact that ratings have gone down quite dramatically. The last Golden Globes was the lowest rated show, I think, in the history of the show. And so, they're saying, okay, look, ratings are in the tank. This is an opportunity for evolution. Let's make some change and see what we can come back with.
Eli, thanks as always. Appreciate your being with us this morning.